She found a phone on the ground, but what was inside changed her life forever. 0130 hook. She thought she'd found a lost phone. She had no idea she was holding the final message of a missing woman, and that what she discovered next would drag her into a mystery darker than anything police had seen in years. Picture this: a quiet suburban street at dusk in Montana. The kind of place where neighbors wave at each other, where nothing bad ever happens. A woman in her late 40s kneels beside a cracked smartphone lying in the middle of the road. Her hand shakes as she unlocks it. The screen flashes to a video thumbnail titled, "If you're watching this, I'm already gone." Stay with me, because what happens in this story shocked investigators, the entire town, and even the FBI. If you're wondering whether you should keep watching, let me ask you this. What would you do if you found a phone with a message like that? Would you open it? Would you call the police? Or would you wish you'd never picked it up at all? 133. T's key questions. This is the story of two women whose lives collided in the most unexpected way. Sarah Miles, a 49-year-old school bus driver who thought she was just doing the right thing, and Emily Carter, a 32-year-old graphic designer who vanished without a trace. In a remote Montana town where everyone knows everyone, or at least thinks they do, something terrible happened, and the clues were hiding in plain sight. Why was Emily's phone left in the middle of the road? Who recorded that final video message? And why did the police ignore the biggest clue of all? If Sarah had walked by just 30 seconds earlier, this entire story might have been buried forever. But she didn't. And what she found changed everything. 310. Backstory. Character setup. Let me tell you about Sarah Miles. She's the kind of person you'd want as a neighbor. Reliable, observant, the type who notices when your porch light has been left on for 3 days straight. She'd been a school bus driver for over 20 years, navigating the winding mountain roads of Montana with a patience that only comes from genuine care. Sarah lived alone in a modest house on Maple Street, the same house she'd shared with her husband before he died of a heart attack 7 years earlier. Friends said she never fully recovered from losing him, but she kept going. She had her routines: morning coffee on the porch, evening walks around the neighborhood. She was known for being cautious, maybe overly so. Her sister once joked that Sarah could sense trouble before it arrived. Sarah had laughed it off, but she'd said something that stuck with people. If something was wrong, I'd feel it. That instinct, that quiet awareness, was about to become the most important thing in her life. Now, Emily Carter, 32 years old, a graphic designer who'd moved to this small Montana town 8 months earlier. She was new, which in a place like this meant people noticed. But Emily kept to herself. She was polite, smiled at the grocery store, attended a few community events, but never really opened up. Her coworkers described her as talented but reserved, creative but guarded. What most people didn't know was why Emily had moved there in the first place. She was escaping. 2 years earlier, she'd ended a relationship with a man named Marcus. It hadn't been a clean break. He'd been controlling, possessive, the kind of person who'd show up unannounced and call it love. Emily had finally worked up the courage to leave, moved across state lines, changed her phone number, started over. Montana felt safe, quiet, far away from everything that had hurt her. Her small apartment was filled with art supplies and half-finished projects. Her social media was sparse. The last post she'd made before she disappeared was a photo of a sunset with the caption, "Sometimes starting over means leaving everything behind." People later said the post felt off, like there was something beneath the surface she wasn't saying. And on the night she disappeared, someone else was watching Sarah too. 10-11 engagement. CTA. Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. 11:20. The incident. Crime. Let's go back to the night Emily disappeared. It was a Tuesday in early October. The air was cold, the kind of cold that makes you walk a little faster to get home. Emily left her office at exactly 7:42 in the evening. Her coworker saw her get into her car, wave goodbye, and drive off. Nothing unusual. Nothing that would suggest what was about to happen. At 8:10, a neighbor 3 houses down from Emily's apartment heard something outside. A car door slamming. Voices. Maybe an argument. But they weren't sure. They didn't think much of it. This was a safe town. At 8:19, Emily's phone lost signal abruptly. Not a gradual loss. Not a dead battery. Just gone. And at 8:31, a text message was sent from Emily's phone to her best friend in California. "I'm fine, just need some space. Don't worry." But here's the thing. Police later confirmed Emily didn't send that message. Someone else did. The next morning, Sarah was on her usual walk. She took the same route every day, down Maple, across Birch, looping back through the park. It was just after 7 when she saw it. A phone, face down in the middle of the road, the screen cracked but still glowing. Sarah picked it up, brushed off the dirt, and tried to figure out who it belonged to. The lock screen showed dozens of missed calls. Texts from someone named Jessica. "Where are you?" "Emily, please answer." "I'm calling the police." Sarah's stomach tightened. She didn't know why, but something felt wrong. She unlocked the phone. It didn't have a passcode, which struck her as odd. And there, in the video gallery, was a file dated the night before. The thumbnail showed a young woman's face, pale, eyes wide with fear. The title read, "If you're watching this, I'm already gone." Sarah's hands started shaking. She pressed play. The video was only 18 seconds long. Emily's voice, barely a whisper. "If anyone finds this, I didn't leave. Please, I need." And then it cut off. Just like that. No explanation. No context. Just terror frozen in time. Sarah called the police immediately. She told them everything. Showed them the phone, the video, the messages. But the officer who took her statement seemed skeptical. "Could be a prank," he said. "Maybe she staged it. People do that for attention." Sarah felt her face flush with anger. "Does she look like she's joking?" she demanded. The officer sighed, took down her information, and said they'd look into it. But Sarah could tell. They weren't taking it seriously. And that was the moment Sarah decided she wasn't going to let this go. What she did next changed everything. 2035 to 0. The aftermath and investigation. Within hours, Emily Carter's disappearance was all over the local news. Her best friend Jessica had already filed a missing persons report from California, and once Sarah came forward with the phone, the story exploded. But the police response was frustratingly slow. They treated it like a runaway case. Emily was an adult. She had no family in town, no boyfriend, no obvious reason someone would want to hurt her. The lead detective, a man named Greg Lawson, suggested Emily might have been struggling mentally. "People leave all the time," he told reporters. "We have to consider all possibilities." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. She watched the video over and over, analyzing every frame, every shadow, every flicker of movement. And then she saw it. In the window behind Emily, reflected in the glass, was a shape. It looked like a person, someone standing behind her. Sarah took screenshots, zoomed in as much as she could, and brought them to the police. Detective Lawson glanced at them, nodded, and said they'd look into it. But days passed, and nothing happened. Meanwhile, the town was falling apart. Facebook groups dedicated to finding Emily sprouted up overnight. Theories flew around like wildfire. Some people thought Emily's ex-boyfriend was involved, even though he lived 3 states away and had an alibi. Others pointed fingers at a coworker who'd been acting strange. There were rumors of a suspicious truck seen near Emily's apartment the night she vanished. An anonymous tip came in saying Emily had staged the whole thing for attention, that she was hiding out with a secret lover. The noise was deafening, and the truth felt further away than ever. And then the police started looking at Sarah. Why was she the one who found the phone? How did she know to unlock it? Why was she so invested in the case? Some people whispered that maybe Sarah was involved, that maybe she knew more than she was letting on. Sarah sat through 2 grueling interviews with Detective Lawson, answering the same questions over and over. Where were you the night Emily disappeared? How well did you know her? Why did you touch the phone before calling us? She felt like a suspect in her own good deed. But Sarah didn't back down. She kept digging, kept asking questions, kept refusing to let Emily be forgotten. And then, 2 weeks after Emily disappeared, Sarah found something the police had missed. Something that terrified her. 35 to 0, 45 to 0. The twist. Revelation. Sarah couldn't sleep. Every night, she replayed the video in her mind, that 18-second clip that had consumed her life. She'd watched it so many times she could recite every word, every breath, every flicker of fear in Emily's eyes. But one night, while scrolling through the phone's files, Sarah noticed something. There was a second video. It was buried deep in the storage, hidden in a folder labeled System Backup. Most people would never have found it. But Sarah wasn't most people. She opened it, and what she saw made her blood run cold. The video wasn't filmed by Emily. It was filmed from outside her apartment. A security camera, maybe. The footage was grainy, time-stamped the night Emily disappeared. It showed a man dragging something heavy across a yard. Something wrapped in a tarp. The man's face wasn't visible, but Sarah recognized the location. It was the house next door to Emily's apartment. The neighbor, a man named Richard Hayes, mid-50s, reclusive, the kind of guy who kept to himself and had security cameras pointed at the street. People said he was harmless. A little odd, maybe, but harmless. Sarah's hands trembled as she called Detective Lawson. This time, he listened. Within 24 hours, police obtained a search warrant for Richard Hayes' property. They found Emily's jacket buried in his backyard, wrapped in plastic, covered in dirt. But they didn't find Emily. Richard was arrested and brought in for questioning. At first, he denied everything. But when they showed him the video, when they laid out the evidence, he broke down. "I never touched her," he said, his voice shaking. "I never hurt her." The interrogation room went silent. Detective Lawson leaned forward. "Then why did you bury her jacket?" Richard looked up, tears streaming down his face. "Because someone made me." The room erupted. "What do you mean someone made you?" Richard's voice was barely a whisper. "He said if I didn't do it, he'd kill me too. He said he was watching. He said he knew where I lived, where my sister lived. I didn't know what else to do." "Who?" Lawson demanded. "Who made you do this?" Richard shook his head. "I don't know his name, but I know where he is." Everything the police thought they knew was wrong. Richard Hayes wasn't the one who took Emily. He was just a terrified man caught in the middle of something much bigger, much darker. And Emily was still out there, somewhere, with someone who'd been playing everyone from the very beginning. 45 to 0, 55 to 0, final twist, resolution. The real story started to unravel, piece by piece. Richard gave the police a location, a cabin about 15 miles outside of town, deep in the woods where no one would think to look. He said the man who threatened him had been watching Emily for weeks, maybe months. He'd approached Richard one night, showed him photos of Richard's elderly sister, told him exactly what would happen if he didn't cooperate. Richard had been paralyzed with fear. So when the man told him to bury Emily's jacket, to make it look like evidence, Richard did it. He thought if he played along, the man would leave him alone. He was wrong. Police surrounded the cabin, SWAT teams, FBI agents, helicopters circling overhead. The tension was suffocating. And when they finally breached the door, they found her, Emily Carter, alive. She was in the basement, hands bound, dehydrated, exhausted, but alive. She'd been there for 16 days. The man who took her was arrested at the scene. His name was Marcus Sloan, Emily's ex, the one she'd been running from, the one she thought she'd left behind. But Marcus had never let her go. He'd tracked her down, changed his name, rented the cabin months before she even arrived in Montana. He'd been watching her the whole time, planning, waiting for the right moment. The night he took her, he'd followed her home from work, forced his way into her car, and driven her to the cabin. He'd made her record that video on her phone, then tossed the phone in the road to throw off investigators. He'd sent the text message to her friend. He'd orchestrated everything. But he hadn't counted on Sarah, who refused to let it go. Sarah, who saw what the police missed. Sarah, whose instinct told her something was wrong and who trusted that feeling even when no one else believed her. Emily was hospitalized for a week. Physically, she recovered. Emotionally, the scars would take much longer to heal, but she was alive. And that was because of Sarah. When Emily was finally released, she went to see Sarah. They sat on Sarah's porch, the same porch where Sarah drank her morning coffee, and Emily cried. "You saved my life," she said. Sarah shook her head. "You saved your own life by making that video. I just made sure people listened." Emily smiled, a small, fragile smile. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Sarah reached over and squeezed her hand. "I never would have." The case made national headlines. Marcus Sloan was charged with kidnapping, assault, and attempted murder. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 30 years in prison with no possibility of parole. Richard Hayes was given immunity in exchange for his testimony. The town of Montana slowly returned to normal, but the people who lived through it were forever changed. They learned that danger doesn't always look like a stranger in a dark alley. Sometimes it looks like someone you used to love. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. And sometimes the person who saves you is someone you've never even met. Sarah went back to her quiet life, driving her school bus, taking her evening walks. But now, people knew her name. They thanked her. They called her a hero. She didn't see it that way. She just saw someone who needed help, and she helped. 55 to 0, 60 to 0, strong, close, and engagement. So now I want to hear from you. If you found a phone like that, would you open it? And if you saw what Sarah saw, would you know what to do? Would you have trusted your instinct the way she did? Or would you have walked away? Think about Emily, about how close she came to being forgotten. Think about Marcus, about how he almost got away with it. Think about Sarah, about the courage it took to keep pushing when everyone told her to stop. This story isn't just about a phone, or a video, or a rescue. It's about paying attention. It's about believing people when they're afraid. It's about the small choices we make that can change everything. Was justice really served? Or is there more to this case than meets the eye? Tell me your take in the comments. I'm reading every single one. And if you thought this story was unbelievable, wait until you see what happened when a family found a hidden room behind their fireplace. That story is coming next. Subscribe for more real-life mysteries and the twists you never see coming. Because the truth is always stranger than fiction, and sometimes it's hiding right in front of you.